Hey guys, Professor Bill Comic Book University and Star Wars issue number one. Yeah, I know, right? Like way back? No, no, no. The year 2025, brand new. This is the new Star Wars series. Probably not going to be standalone, which is a little bit annoying. I get it. If I had Star Wars, I'd probably be making a million comic books about them, but restraint. It's it's a good thing, right? I'm gonna try and read this. There's a thing or two that I didn't like in here. I think really just one thing that I didn't like, but it is what it is. Um, they said that this comic book, but for the most part, I really like this, and I'm hoping we get to keep going forward with it. Another thing that I won't like about it, if there are going to be three other Star Wars comic books at the same time, that are also running the same stories. You want to have some little side things that reference back Easter eggs. Hey, you should be reading the other books too. Sure. But if I have to read more than one, I'm not going to be happy with that. I don't want to keep doing that. Just make this issue a weekly comic book if that's what you want, right? They have the control to do whatever they want. Anyway, as it stands so far, pretty much so freaking good. So let's get talking about who made this comic book. We'll move on from there. So this issue is called Out of the Darkness. Alex Segura is the writer, Phil Noto on art, VC's Clayton Cowles on letters, and Phil Noto is also doing the cover art. Ah, that's so perfect. I love when they do that. I love seeing all these guys that I know doing these comic books again. Let's go way back to the beginning of this. So we see a couple of X-wings flying around, kicking some booty. They're looking for some pirates, and they're in the Fenrir sector. I don't know if that actually matters for anything. Sometimes they just say things for the sake of saying things. Um, Luke is flying. Also, this was supposed to take place after the Return of the Jedi. Okay, okay, we're good. We're good on that. I like that. Um, so they're flying around. They're looking for pirates, and there's a bunch of little ships running around. And an interesting thing that I notice. So first off, splash page, and it's a gorgeous splash page. Is these pirates were able to hijack a star destroyer? It's dirty. I mean, the artists in here do an amazing job. I can immediately tell this was not a brand new Star Destroyer. You know what I'm saying? But just the idea of the Republic coming around a corner and seeing a freaking Star Destroyer coming at them, that would terrify me. I think that would terrify just about anybody, right? In fact, in Fortnite right now, my kids are playing, and you can see the Star Destroyers up in the sky with the what's it called, the Death Star coming closer, like every day apparently. That's really cool because it really gives you this idea of this overwhelming army, an imperial army, coming down to bear, right? To kick your butt, to take your name, and then to erase your name because they really just wanted to kick your butt in the first place, right? Um, and here, though, this one is dirty. It's obviously been hijacked. They probably don't even have a way of cleaning the damn thing, to maintenance and all that stuff. Probably not. They're freaking pirates, right? So whatever. I'm not going to put a or give a whole lot of credit to them. That said, this thing seems to be in pretty good working order, and at the very least, it can release a whole bunch of ships. And I love that they're all a whole bunch of different ships that are in different shape, different sizes, all obviously bought from different shipyards, different models, everything, right? Really puts them in this vein of they're pirates. They're just kind of ragtag and all over the place. It kind of, and I'm wondering if I'm just reading into this too much. It kind of gives me the sense of, you know how the not the New Republic, because this is the New Republic now. So the beginnings, the shapings of the return of Luke trying to, start with Leia and Han, trying to restart something new, trying to bring back something like the Old Republic, but not exactly the same thing. This kind of reminds me of this sense of when they were just the Rebel Alliance. They were just a bunch of ragtag guys also. Yeah, a lot of their ships were dress right, dress, same thing, whatever. I guess they were just trying to find what they could find. And the ships were definitely in better working order, so to speak, than the TIE fighters, right? Because those were just cheap, throw them out there um, kind of ships, which is interesting because that's kind of what Carthaginia was doing against Rome when Carthage was the huge empire and Rome was just fledgling, very small, almost pointless, right? Um, anyway, I don't know. There's so much imagery here that it gives me a lot to think about and what they could possibly do, where they could go with this story. As it stands, this ship comes out of nowhere. They take out one of the people in the X-wings. Luke isn't happy. Nobody's happy. This one chick is super not happy. What's her name? Ryn, Rynn. Maybe that's important or meaningful to some of the guys who've been reading the other comics. Maybe Ryn was in the comic. I don't know. Sometime in the future, she. But for right now, she decides to follow this one ship who had killed the one person that they know, and she's going to follow it down to the surface. And Luke is going to follow. Everybody else is told to retreat to get the F out of there because there are, overwhelming number of these ragtag ships, these pirates coming at them. So way too much firepower. They weren't ready for this, and they don't know what that Star Destroyer in and of itself is capable of doing right now. I didn't see it shooting, but, you never know. There are Boba Fett's hiding on Star Destroyers all the time, right? Anyway, so they go down there, and then there's just this dude waiting there who's got a vibro knife. No pistol or blaster of any type, it looks like, but he's got a vibro knife, or at least it looks like a vibro knife. Anyway, and Luke's down there with his lightsaber, and he takes the guy out pretty quick. The dumb chick is just standing there like, I'm gonna take you. He's like, move. It's like, you know me better than that. I'm not gonna move. It's like, okay, well then you're stupid. Like this is a gigantic lightsaber, and I'm like, see all these up here? They're not small. It's not a light dagger. I can't maneuver this thing easy. It's a lightsaber. Move so I don't go and accidentally take you out too. Accidentally. Anyway, he came down there to save her, for crying out loud. But it's interesting. They show his face like, and you guys let me know in the comments if those markings on his face or if the character himself actually means something to you. He seems to die in this one. He kind of pulls a Predator. He's like, yes, come closer, Luke. Beep, beep, beep. Oh. He doesn't laugh. But it looked like he died in some state of humor. Anyway, Luke took a blast to the face. Doesn't the Force come with like a spider sense kind of thing? I don't know. Anyway, maybe a Minox sense. So Princess Leia and was that Mon Mothma? I think that was Mon Mothma actually who was down there. She kept on calling her Mon. Anyway, they go to Chandrila, provisional capital of the New Republic, and they're meeting with some delegate of blah 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 blah. And this chick is like she must be Canadian. She is the epitome of, darn it, I lost the word. Oh, that's annoying when you lose a word, right? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, condescending. There's the word. She's the epitome of condescending. Like, and I get it. She's speaking from what she believes is a position of power. And she actually points out that Mon Mothma and Princess Leia are not speaking from a position of power. Interesting. Very interesting. And I'm digging where this is potentially going. And later on, she winds up making an attack on them. But she points out, and this is, as a student of history, this is painful, right? When you think about, and this is going to relate back to the story. Let me tell you this story first. In this comic book, she goes and says something to the effect of, after everything that you've done, and she mentions the Battle of Jakku. Okay, that's a little bit scary. I don't remember the post, like the 3 movies that came after Return of the Jedi. I'm not talking about Rogue One. That was actually pretty good. I'm talking about the trilogy that came afterwards, The Force Awakens and the Last Jedi, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and whatever that last one was. That was just, to me, an absolute abomination. I liked the first one for the most part until Rey turned out that she had the Force instead of Finn. That dude should have had the freaking Force. Okay, let's not go back there. But my point is, that this happened, and it was like, rah. But the Battle of Jakku, okay, I get that they're still doing the Kathleen Kennedy thing, and the we're gonna go with the that trilogy is actually gonna happen and things like that. And that really is, to me, a huge shame. It's an absolute shame they're still gonna go with that. Sorry, guys, I am one of those guys who goes with the novels as the best thing that's ever happened to Star Wars after those original three movies, you know? And yes, I am including the prequels. It's not that the prequels were necessarily bad, but they were bad compared to the original three. And the only reason why any of us, I think, for the most part, like the prequel trilogy, like the Revenge of the Sith and all those, is because of how bad the postquel, the sequel trilogy was. You know what I'm saying? Force Awakens and all those were so terrible. Anyway, so that means that all of these stories, as cool as they might be, we know they're just going to lead to that eventually. Do I even want to see the way the Republic, the New Republic, eventually breaks up? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't have any interest in seeing that. And I'm just hoping these books can be stretched out long enough to actually be worthwhile reading. So they're new Star Wars books. But man, Disney could go a long way by saying, look, we apologize to all the actors who put their time and effort and sometimes their blood into these things. And I mean all of the actors. Yes, even the ones that we didn't like their characters, right? There's that one Asian chick. Nobody liked her character. But it does bother me that people were actually like blasting her online and making her hate the Star Wars universe. Like, what is that? That's not who fans are supposed to be. That's horrible that we did something like that. And by we, I don't mean me, but hopefully that didn't mean you guys also. If it did, you need to get right with God because that's not cool. Anyway, nobody's beyond redemption. And honestly, just what I said there, nobody's beyond redemption. Think about Luke Skywalker. Think about Darth Vader. That is what Star Wars is supposed to be. Nobody is beyond redemption. But they have all three major characters here. They have a Luke story, a Leia story, and a Han story. And a famous bounty hunter shows up in this. Spoiler, it's not one of the ones from the movies. But a famous bounty hunter shows up in this again. I remember when he was returned recently a couple years ago. And I'm not disappointed to see him at all. I like the idea of there being a bunch of bounty hunters. Anyway, I'm not sure why Han is teaming up with him. I obviously missed something by not reading the other comics, but anyway. So anyway, this chick goes and she attacks blah 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 blah, and that's interesting. And I like the way this is going. Oh, the story I was going to tell is actually from history. It's interesting. Persia and Rome were going at it with each other, which is really just a continuation of Persia and Greece, right? But Rome finally defeated the immense Persian Empire that built off of the back in many ways from the Babylonian, Sumerian, Mesopotamian empire, right? Like this, we're talking about huge powerhouses fighting Persia and Rome. And finally, Rome won. And within about 2 decades, they were so tired, so battle worn, so weary, and so just, yeah, we got to start the process of rebuilding in case somebody else attacks. And they did not expect Islam to rise up and just woof, sweep over 2/3 of the Christian world and all of this stuff. And all I'm going to point out is I don't know if that's what this is doing, but it could. And that would make for a very interesting story to go forward. I have no idea who these characters are, but they're drawn and especially colored very well. Like that black and gold 3PO unit. Wow, that looks good. You know what I'm saying? All these guys, their armors, everything about them, they look amazing with the black and gold. And I really do hope that these are maybe one of them could even be a prophet and just in some ways imitate actual history, right? But she points out the exact same things that were wrong with everything else. these huge super, because in their strength, Islam couldn't have defeated either of those two empires. They wouldn't have stood a snowball's chance in hell. But with Persia defeated, they were easy to take over. With Rome so beaten up and just like we don't want to do anything else, they just seem to attack in all the right places at all the right times. And yeah, and go figure, the one battle that the Romans could have just wiped them away with, when they actually came and fought. And I'm trying to remember, Jarl Smith? What the hell was it? Yabaro? Anyway, what do you call it? A sandstorm happened to appear. Seems miraculous, right? Some of you guys will be like, it was a miracle. Others can be like, yeah, that was a really messed up coincidence. But, they decided to attack them as opposed to letting them come and attack them. So it is what it is. Anyway, things like that could be repeated in these comic books. These could be amazing stories because some of the best stories you can ever tell are just another retelling of things that have already happened in history, because history is amazing in and of itself. And if this stuff is in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago, then yeah, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, that's what it is. If this is stories from a long time ago, I'm just saying, let's actually tell some of these stories from the perspective of a long time ago, because I love the idea of that. Pretty much everything in this battle, or excuse me, in this comic book was amazing to me. And I'm really looking forward to them doing something wonderful with these stories, really make it hard on the fledgling New Republic, on them trying to do something good. But these guys, are they evil? I mean, are any of us really evil, or are we just misunderstood? Right? I know there are a whole bunch of really bad characters. Gottlieb's Law, you got to talk about Hitler, you got to talk about Mussolini, you got to talk about Leopold II, you got to talk about Napoleon, you got to talk about some of the people who really come across as pretty darn evil, right? But the problem is there aren't actually that many of those people in existence, not really. And when you think about it, most people are just really misunderstood and terribly, terribly flawed, like every single one of us humans. This story, it is off to such a tremendous start. It could be really good. And that's exactly what I need in a Star Wars story. That's exactly what I need to actually get re-immersed in stories like this. I'm really hoping, I'm really banking on them doing a good job with this. But they really do have to put out any idea of the sequels, Force Awakens and all them. They need to just put them out of their minds. They need to understand that, sorry, if you're watching this and you're one of the people like this, that's cool. I'm not mad at you. I'm not in the slightest, I don't think you're stupid. I don't think anything like that. I think you have every right to like whatever you want to like. But the majority of people don't like it. And we should be trying to find the things that the most people can agree upon. There are some things from The Force Awakens and all those that could still be salvaged, but I do think that for the most part, those stories should just be scrapped, act like they never happened. I'm sorry to all those actors, right? But yeah, they got paid. I mean, what else is there? That's just an alternate universe, and we need to go with a different direction so that people can actually get back on board with one of the most beloved franchises that has ever entered into popular culture. And that's really all I got, as if it isn't enough. I'll talk to you guys later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.